What does it look like when we take a pause and really think about what we want to do next? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome to Women Leaders on the Move, a Her C-Suite Radio podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Benamou, and every week I have the amazing opportunity to learn right along with you from amazing leaders like Jenn Smith. I'm also the founder of Her C-Suite, a powerful network community where women leaders like Jenn Smith are thriving together. In fact, I met her at our Thrive in 2025 Women's Conference. We went to a book signing afterwards for both of our Brave Women at Work books. And today we're going to be talking all about how you can have a flourishing career wherever you are in your life. Let's get started now. Jenn, I am so excited to welcome you to Women Leaders on the Move today. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh my goodness, Natalie, what a joy. Like we were saying, this is long overdue. I'm delighted to be here.
I know. I can't believe how long it's been since I got to see you in real life. And now here we are. And I think all the things that you're doing are amazing. And I can't wait for our audience to hear about them. Can you give us a snapshot of your career and what's bringing us to this moment today?
It's been quite a journey. So, at the core, I believe that career fulfillment and success doesn't have to come at the expense of living a radiantly happy and healthy lifestyle. Now, that belief came through a very winding, meandering path. So, I'll just share a little bit about it. My first job out of college was working the graveyard shift as a frontline supervisor in a potato chip factory. So I worked for Frito-Lay, which is part of PepsiCo, and it's an amazing organization, a well-oiled machine. And I learned so much about running a business in that job, mainly because I didn't want to have to call my boss at 3 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't make a decision. So I learned a ton about leading people and trade-off decisions around cost and quality and safety. And so it was a really interesting experience to have at such an early age. And then I worked about 4 years in operations and I decided I really wanted to focus on the people side of the business. So I was so excited. I'm ready to move into human resources. And my boss told me, no, we don't take people from operations into human resources. And so that's really the first time that I got to develop my own kind of career plan, which is what I love to help people with today. And so I signed up for every HR project you could imagine. I raised my hand for all the people related things. And then lo and behold, a junior level role opened up at a location that no one wanted to go to. It was like the middle of nowhere, Connecticut. And I raised my hand. I said, give me a chance. They gave me a chance, and the rest is history. So I spent 15 years in HR across 3 different industries. So I spent 8 years at PepsiCo, and then I moved to tech distribution, and then another 8 years at Thermo Fisher Scientific in biotech. So lots of kind of twists and turns throughout that. But then in 2019, I thought 2020 was going to be the best year ever. I decided to leave my corporate career behind and step into self-employment as a career and HR consultant, helping others navigate our challenging, changing world of work and help them find the aligned path. And it's a process I call heart-based career planning. So that's a little bit about my background.
Wow, what a year. We both started in 2020. It's hard to believe that was the best year to choose to do this.
It was. It turned into be a blessing for sure. But man, I'll never forget that moment that the world shut down. I really caught my breath hard.
Yes, yes. You and me both. I don't know if you know, but I was in trade shows up until that moment. And that day I can remember all like 1,000 shows just ended and we had trucks in transit, we had people on the show floor, and we were like, just leave everything. Just leave it. You'll be back in a
Right.
week.
Not so much.
Nope. We had to like send them in to go get the stuff and like pull it, right? What I love about your story that you were sharing is you weren't waiting to be tapped on the shoulder. I think so often, a lot of times we're doing a really good job, and it sounds like you were doing amazing on this really challenging overnight supervisor role. That's not easy. But then there's also the demand of being on the front lines of what's happening and then just not taking no, like persistence. I love that you were like, okay, I'm going to be curious and I'm going to learn as much as I can in spite of what you're saying. Because a lot of times the person that doesn't believe in you gets in our way And there's all these other people that did see what was possible. Clearly they did. And volunteering to go to the place no one wanted to. I love that too. This nonlinear path and getting and seeing what's out there has changed so much, especially I think COVID did us a favor in that regard because we thought we had to be linear, right? We thought we had to be the ladder, then there's the lattice. And now you can do multiple streams of income. You can do multiple different types of things. What are you seeing with the people you're working with and how has that changed?
Yes, I love this question. And, our world of work has literally been turned upside down throughout the years. Obviously, COVID accelerated that, and now AI is continuing to accelerate that. But one of the things I love, and technology supports this, is that we can make money in so many different ways nowadays. And so it used to be, the old rules, you work with a company for 35 years and you retire and, you get your pension and all of that kind of stuff, very steady and stable. And so that worked at some point in the industrial age and now it just doesn't work anymore and there's so much more flexibility. And so I love talking with people about multiple streams of income, and I call it that portfolio career where you have different ways to bring money in and you don't have to stay at one organization your entire lives. I always say that our careers and our lives are built in seasons, and so our lives change and our careers should evolve with that. They're going to want to evolve with that. And so I like to help people really understand, like, hey, what are your core and lifestyle values in this season of career and life? And then how can we plan your career around that? Whether that means, maybe there is kind of like the cash cow where you have some decent money coming in, but then you're going to go test the waters and a few other things, because then eventually you're going to want to move and do your own thing. And so there's lots of ways to kind of think about this, but I'm noticing that people are getting a little antsy just thinking about having to be in one space for so long. And once you take that, like, kind of that rule around, I always say, like, it doesn't have to be written in cement when I'm helping people try to clarify what's next. Like, it doesn't have to be written in cement. It's not written in blood. Like, this will evolve. Like, take that off your shoulders and let's see what this can really come into, and let's get really creative. I think that's the fun of it too, is you can get so creative with careers and income and fulfillment and energy and values and impact and all of that in today's world of work, which is really cool.
I want to ask you a question about fear because I think that is the thing that might stop us from thinking that there is other possibilities. So, when I got my MBA, I thought I was going to start a business and I didn't because I was successful in my career and I kept going on this vertical ladder that we're talking about. And then I reached a point in 2020, like we were talking about earlier, where it's like, well, I really can't go any lower than where we are right this moment. And sometimes we don't need to hit that hard of a, bottom before we can realize that there's a time to fly through the windows. So for you, when you're talking with people about this and that fear factor, what do you tell people about, because there is that security with, with the people called the day job, the W-2 and that like
Yes, yes.
security, right? And there's you
Yeah.
took this leap of faith and then a lot changed all at once. What do you tell people when they're saying, "Yeah, but."
Yeah, there's a couple things that come up. And for me personally, it was give yourself 1 year. Try it for 1 year. You can always go back. And so I've always said, like, I don't want to live a life of regrets. I just want to try. If I don't try this, like, that voice, that nudge will never stop. So I always ask people to consider, what would an experiment look like? How might you try this just to see, just to give yourself a chance, whatever that looks like, side hustle, maybe giving yourself a year, maybe it's doing some volunteer just to see how much energy you get from it, whatever it is, experiment. And then the other thing that I recommend is looking for what I would call like evidence, like look for evidence of people that are doing it. So when I got my career coaching certification in 2017, there were very little career coaches out there. Like, it wasn't a thing. Like, I really wanted to do this work, but it wasn't really a thing. And of course, I'm like, oh, there's no way I can make any money. I've got, corporate salary, we know what those look like. And I was like, there's no way I could do this. So then I started looking for evidence of it and I started talking to other career coaches. And I found out that you can actually make a great living as a career coach. There's different business models, different types of ways you can do that. But So I started to get that evidence. And then I gave myself 1 year and I saved up however much. And that was one thing too. Like I didn't want to put any burden on my husband. I'm like, listen, I'm going to still contribute to our family the way that I've always contributed to our family. And if anything ever changes, I promise, like, I won't put any more pressure on you or anything like that. And I've stayed true to that this whole entire time. So I think it's like finding the evidence, other people that have done it, and then trying to experiment and give yourself a chance.
When you said evidence, the other idea I had that was going through my mind is evidence of yourself, where you've succeeded to use that to encourage in those moments. Because let's be honest, when you're an entrepreneur, there's the ups and the downs, right?
Oh, yes.
So there's a moment when people leave their corporate role and it's quiet. There's like silence. You don't have the full calendar. The phone isn't ringing off the hook. You can take a bio break and no one's asking you to come back. That like crazy time that you were in is now not the same. What do you tell people to be prepared for that?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So when you're talking, I literally can remember that moment. So it was January of 2020. And I remember it was so quiet. But Natalie, I have to tell you, one of the things that was a sign that I knew I needed to leave corporate was because I felt like the noise, like I couldn't take it anymore. So I would get like a ping on Teams and I would like, I would like freak out. I'm like, oh my, why are you interrupting? Like it was these little tiny things that were just making me crazy. So I knew like I welcomed that quiet for a while, but it is a lot different. And so you really do have to prepare yourself for that.
Hey, it's Natalie. I wanted to pop in today and invite you to our monthly series next to Lead AI. The first Friday of every month, we have speakers and topics that help you stay relevant, build trust, and be in demand. Join us every month on the first Friday at 12 noon Central. You can get all the details in the show notes or visit us at hercsuite.com to learn more.
And then one of the things that I like to think about when, kind of considering making a change is what does your ideal day look like? So we know what the chaos feels like and looks like today, but ideally, if you're going to make this change, what does that ideal day look like? And so I had time and space to actually go to the park in the morning. And I love watching the sunrise and like take care of my dog, like without rushing out the door. And so I started to like really just lean into what did I want my day to look like? And when am I at my best, which is in the morning. And so that's when I want to do, my main like creative, thoughtful work. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, which I have to mention, when you get your in-season planner, you'll be able to see in there, there's a little section for your I did it list and then celebrating what brought you joy for the week. And I think that's so important too. So sometimes when it gets really quiet like that, and there's lots of ups and downs in the self-employment world, but taking note of what you actually did each week and like be proud of that and celebrate that for a moment. And I remember my first month career coaching, I remember posting something about working with 16 clients. So I was doing some one-off like resume stuff, but I was like, oh my gosh, I counted. I was like, I worked with 16 humans and helped them with their career. Like, that's pretty amazing. Like, yeah, my days are a lot quieter, but look at that impact. So that's just a couple things that I think folks can consider.
Yeah, I'm looking at the planners for the people listening. They can't see the beautiful work of our friend Heather Eck, who just beautiful. I cannot wait. I'm going to run to the post office box as soon as we're done.
Yay.
I will have a link in the show notes for people because I want people to know where to find that. But as you started growing, and maybe that's part of what I'm going to ask next is you started your business, and then what were some additional revenue streams or different ways of branching out? You're a best-selling author, you've done other things. Let's talk a little bit more about how that has expanded for you over time.
So obviously the salary and the financial piece is very scary when you're used to a biweekly paycheck and the bonuses and all of the things. And so one of the things that really helped me, and this goes kind of back to that portfolio career idea, was that I worked as a career coach for myself, Flourish Careers. I also worked for the Muse, which is a very popular career platform. So I was a coach on the Muse. I also collaborated with a group called Career Clarity. So I had clients coming in from multiple different places. And one of the things I knew, like I'm not super good at visibility. And so I knew being on a platform like the Muse would help me, because it's a very popular platform. So that would help people find me. And so I did things like that. And I've continued to do things like that. So now I partner with a HR consulting agency. So that's like another stream of income that came in. And I started a podcast. And so that was another way for, folks to find me. And that started amazing collaborations like the one with Jen at Brave Women at Work. And then the Brave Women at Work book. And then I met Heather. And now Heather and I just did the planner together. So I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being self-employed is you get to pick the collaborations that, and the people that you work with. And when you have a, W-2 job or whatever you want to call it, you don't really get to do that as often. And so I think that's one of the best parts of being self-employed.
What you're describing is really, I hesitate using this word, but the she economy, but that really is what we're talking about this exponential collaboration of people coming together, finding synergies and saying, you know what, you do this, I do this. What happens if we do it together? What can we imagine could be possible? If someone is thinking, okay, but I'm still in my role and I'm not sure if I'm going to leave, I decide I'm gonna leave, where did you go to find those connections? Because they're a little different. How did you do that? What was the journey for that?
I went to LinkedIn. So I went to LinkedIn and I found career coaches and connected with them. And what I found is, I mean, informational interviews, I think, are a really great tool just to ask candid questions and gather information on whether or not something's going to be a right path for you. And I guide folks that are making a career change from one industry to the next or one role to the next, as well as folks that want to just go do something different. I think informational interviews is the best place. And so I did that out on LinkedIn. I reached out to other career coaches. Again, there weren't that many back then. So it was a little easier to find just the folks that I really resonated with. And they gave me great examples. They told me the good, the bad, and the ugly about it. And then that really helped me make an informed decision on what I wanted to do next. And then the other thing I did was I started a side hustle. So I had my day job and then I started career coaching for the Muse on the side, nights and weekends. And I noticed my energy nights and weekends. I had a very demanding day job, but I could still make time on nights and weekends for these career coaching sessions. And I was fired up. I loved them. And so then I noticed my energy, like the day job was zapping me and the nights and weekends thing was lifting me. And I was like, you know what? Something's got to shift here. Let's just give this a shot.
Don't you think that when you're in your zone, in the happy place, and you don't notice what time it is and you forget to eat and you're like, "Oh, I it's 3 o'clock. What happened to the day?" Right? Or those are the moments where you know you're aligned. When you're counting
Yes.
down the minutes and you're like, "It's Monday, I can't make it to Tuesday because of the demands," then it's time to really start thinking about, and the first thing starts with a conversation. What you're describing is look for like-minded people that are a step ahead, 2 steps ahead.
Yes.
People generally are very kind. If you say, I have 15 minutes, I'd like to ask you a question for 15 minutes. It's no different than in corporate when you'd go to an executive sponsor, right? And you'd say, I have 15 minutes. I have a question I want to ask you. If you're very clear on what you're asking, what were some of the ways that you did that? I'm sure people were receptive, but what are some of the things you tell some of your coaching clients? Because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to bother them. You get all weirded out in your head of like, you start telling
Yeah.
yourself stories, like they're not going to want to hear from me. So, what do you tell your coaching client?
Yeah. So a couple things. One is I always ask people to put themselves in the other person's shoes. Okay. So let's say, Natalie, I was really nervous about reaching out to you. But what if I put myself in your shoes and someone reaches out and says, hey, Natalie, I love what you're doing with her C suite. Like you're super inspiring to me. Would you have 15 minutes just to sit down and talk to me about what your biggest lesson was when you first started? Something like that. So paying a compliment, noticing their work and making it super easy for them to say yes. So I think what you hit on, like the 15 minutes, that's an easy lift. Or give them an out. Say, hey, I know you're super busy. No pressure. If it's easier, maybe we could email or you DM or anything just to get the conversation going, I think is really, really big. Now, what I ended up doing, a couple things I did. So I remember this one career coach had a blog. And so I read a few of her blogs and then I commented. She would share like things on LinkedIn. And so then I would start commenting on them. And so when I eventually reached out, she could put a name and a face together. And then it was kind of an easy yes. So it's like break the ice in an easy way, however that is for you. I think the cold ask is a little bit tough nowadays, especially because it's super noisy out there. So, just get over the fear because it'll feel good. It'll feel good for someone to hear like, hey, you inspire me. Let me ask you a question kind of thing. And then the other thing is try to break the ice, try to pay a compliment, try to really dig into their work first before the ask.
Yeah, I think it's also, if you're putting yourself in their shoes, kind of thinking about, well, how can I help you?
Yes.
So even if you think this person is so far ahead of me, there's no way I could offer them, you'd be surprised. They might say, oh, I saw that you live in this town. I'm trying to find a baker for this. You never know.
Exactly. Yes.
The people that you're working with, are they evaluating their next or are they staying in corporate or what does that look like, the landscape?
The folks that I'm actively working with right now, some of them are in transition for whatever reason, kind of figuring out what's next in that in between. And then some folks are reinventing themselves, like really stepping into leadership for the first time and really understanding what that leadership brand looks like and how they want to step forward really intentionally into leadership. And then some people are actually thinking, okay, what is the next step outside of corporate? So the whole like thing there is just navigating change, whatever that change looks like. So, and everybody's different, everybody's different. Not everybody wants to leave corporate. I learned so much from my time in corporate. I'm so grateful for it, but I just felt like it was complete and it was time to do something different. And so I just like helping people figure out like, hey, okay, what's important to you right now? And then how can we design your career into your lifestyle that's going to make you the happiest and healthiest and most fulfilled?
I think that's what we all want, is just
Yeah.
that life, that portfolio life of, I'm a sunrise person too, of like seeing the sunrise and just appreciating those moments where we might have been just on the trajectory. I don't have time to go outside. I don't have time to do this. I got to get in the car and do all the things. If people want to know more about you and all the things, your best-selling book, your planners, I mean, it is incredible. Where is the best place that they can go to find you?
I would say my website is very simple, flourish.careers. And then I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. LinkedIn is my name, Jennifer Smith. And then Instagram is flourish.careers.
I love all that you're doing. It's amazing, and helping others, just lifting them up is incredible. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you for having me, Natalie.
Thanks for joining Jenn Smith and me for this topic. It's one of my favorites, and I hope that if you found it helpful, you will share it with a friend or colleague. And I would be so grateful if you take 60 seconds and rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. It's how other leaders find us. If you are feeling like you're not sure what to do next, join us in her C-suite. Visit hercsuite.com and find out more. As always, I want you to know you matter. Keep shining your light bright. The world needs you.